Victory screech!
Show them, leaders, do it like a dance, like you want to know what it. And to the pop pop in the walk, walk to it, yummy, to the. Hey y'all, there's so much happening in this fucking game. There is so much happening in this game, and I just want to get to the bottom of it. If I'm being real honest, I don't remember where I stopped. But when I tell you I was at work, I was just like, I gotta figure out what happened. I gotta figure out what's going on. The entire time, that was just all my mind. Okay, we're back into the thick of it. Right? Wait, ooh. So Sojima got his eye gouged out? He did. And we discovered, I think that's Iris'
You're awfully
mama.
calm.
I think that's Iris' mama. I don't give a fuck. That is her mama. You can't be the spitting image of a bitch. That ain't your baby.
You saw the corpse of your daughter today. You were called into the station to confirm her identity. And yet here you are, cool as a cucumber, even though you lost your precious daughter. Shall I guess why?
That wasn't your baby. I don't think I messed up something. I'm not gonna get my achievements for some of this stuff, but I guess that's alright. Let's see. Information on Monica.
Because that body isn't Iris, and you know it.
Are you serious?
Yes. Her name is Monica Ely. She was killed when she was 19. She went to the same high school as you, and she was your best friend. Isn't that right? Nothing to say for yourself? Hiding something? Maybe you killed her with Renju.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, now you're talking. But we know Renju committed a crime, illegally disposing of a body, and we can prove it. The cold storage warehouse where the body was found. It's been managed by Renju Okiura for almost 2 decades now, and witness testimony proves that he knew about the corpse there. And if I'm not mistaken, you knew about the corpse too, Hitomi. You and Renju have been close since high school. It's not too much of a stretch to think that he told you about the body, and I remember you telling me once.
When I was young, I lost someone very important to me. Monica Ely, my best friend. One of the only friends I had.
How did you know that she was dead?
I didn't.
Don't play dumb. I know you're hiding something. You know what happened 18 years ago, and you knew she was pregnant. You were her best friend. Of course you would have known. Tell me. Tell me everything!
Date, she's not going to talk. Sync with her.
Date, I'm sure I've told you enough times by now, but please, come back within 6 minutes.
I can't promise you that, Pewter.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm not coming back until I find something.
Date, you can't.
Why not?
You know why.
Because it will take over my consciousness?
Yes.
But if it's only a little...
No, not even a little. If the sync passes the critical point, the damage will be irreparable.
But what does that mean exactly?
How many tests do you think they did to figure out, like, you know? Like, hi Jesse, welcome in. I really need to make an alert thank you for the early gang. Shaving my face at the moment for picture day tomorrow. I hope you have fun. I'm trying to figure out how do they know it's 6 minutes exactly? Like at what point? How many tests did they do to figure this shit out?
No.
I'm not hiding anything.
You're definitely hiding something. Okay.
Then let's try it. Let's experiment with my mind. Then we'll know for sure what'll happen.
Ugh, fine. I'll just say it.
Yeah?
Pewter, tell him.
Me?
You know more about it than I do.
Well... Well, first off, 6 minutes is not a hard limit. It could be 7, or even 8.
I don't care about the exact time. I'm asking what happens if you go beyond the limit.
Do you remember the story I told you about the egg?
No.
Yeah, why?
If you imagine an egg as your consciousness, the yolk is what goes into the subject's brain. The white remains inside your shell. If you go beyond the limit, your yolk will not be able to return to its shell.
Because the subject's mind will start to take over the sinker's consciousness, right? I know that part already.
Indeed, but there's more to it. After the yolk is devoured, the egg white is brought through the machine next.
Huh?
And there's more. It's not just the sinker's brain. The same process eventually occurs in the subject's as well. In other words, the entire egg ends up being replaced. Mind, consciousness, memory,
Hi,
they are
Zoe.
traded. Switched.
Traded. Switched. Oh. Oh. Are we in the killer's body? Are we number 89? Like, is Date's body number 89? And number 89's body Date's body? Is somebody Rohan? Like, why was Rohan there?
The human brain has what can be understood as a memory limit. One brain can only hold one consciousness, and it can only contain one person's memories.
Now you know everything. Talk to the boss.
I was unaware of this as well. This information is not on any accessible databases.
We had to prevent the possibility that the system could be exploited.
Exploited?
Exploited?
Even if it wasn't you, someone else might try. We didn't tell any sinkers this, including you. Project Sync is a top-secret project. It's a matter of national security. Even sinkers are on a need-to-know basis. Think about it. What if you were kidnapped by bad people who tried to make you talk?
Bad people?
A criminal organization, spies from another country, those people. If you blabbed about Project Sync, the entire country might be at risk. You heard it from Pewter. The Sync machine isn't just for entering a person's Somnium. It can also be used to swap bodies between two people. Imagine what this machine would be used for in the wrong hands. That's why I didn't tell you. We can't let this secret get out.
Swapping bodies between two people? Trading minds?
Date, you remember what I told you earlier? Are you listening to me?
Yeah, I got it.
Are you really okay?
I'm fine. Start it.
Understood. Let us begin.
What?
I am the god of fire. I burn erotic books with my flames of red-hot anger.
My, how ruthless.
Ow!
Are you okay?
That hurt.
I'll let you read this porno mag if it'll make you feel better.
I will burn it.
I feel like this whole scene was just to get like an upskirt shot.
The fog is making it pitch black.
Kill him? Kill who?
The light over
Date?
there. Is that a firefly? Somnium scan. Activate.
I fear the game would be over if he were to die. Reveal Hitomi's secret buried deep inside. Okay.
It disappeared?
No, wait. It might still be nearby.
Interesting. The tops of the trees is like obscuring what's there.
A flower bud. I cannot identify the variety. Worship it?
Yeah.
I will pray to it as though I am mourning the dead. It bloomed a little?
I don't know what caused it, but it's better than nothing happening.
A rock. But it's a rock.
Gods live in the rocks too, you know.
A rather Japanese way of thinking.
Just try it.
If you insist.
How was it? You've cleared your head, right?
Yes. I now feel a sense of emptiness.
Guess it was a waste of time.
I do not want to hear that from you.
You got a fool with niggas. I mean, nigga people.
Hi, Corpse. You haven't missed
Oh,
much.
no.
Oh, well, you did? Okay. So, thank you for giving Jesse a shout out. So, Corpse, what you missed was, we learned that the sync machine that we use to get inside people's brains can be used to swap people's bodies. If they go past the 6-minute limit. If they stay in the other person's brain long enough, they can take over. Not take over, they can swap the body with the person whose brain that they went into. And I theorize that we are not Kaname Date. I theorize that we are number 89 and Kaname Date is number 89. Like, that's his body.
hole in a tree. I mean,
Oopsies, I didn't mean to do that.
I am not going to be eaten or anything, right?
Nah, Winnie the Pooh in there. Get a tub of honey.
Whoa!
Oop.
I fell, but I am still in the forest.
It's darker than before.
What? Is someone there?
Hey!
Hmm?
That voice is...
Find out where that voice is coming from.
So you think number 89 used Dante's body to kill that woman? No. I'm saying I don't think the body we're in is Kaname Dante's at all. I think number 89's body is Dante's body, and we are in number 89's body. Which is why we saw ourselves kill those women in the Somnium and have like no recollection of it. I heard what you said. I was just throwing out a theory. Ah, okay. Whole tree number 2? Oh. Bitch, how big? Okay. Okay. Tree number 2 is... It's to the left. There we go.
5 minutes
What?
left, Date.
Also, thank you for giving...
A hole in the tree. It looks about as big around as a soccer ball. Understood. I will do my best.
Also, thank you for giving Scully a shout out. The plan is to finish this game tonight.
This is a picture of Hitomi, Renju, and Monica.
Everyone is so young. Hold on to that.
I'm sorry, he looked gay as hell in that picture. Okay, if that's rock number 2, Renju is like... No, that's rock number 1. What the fuck is rock is Renju? Oh, okay.
Renju Okiura. Renju, look at this.
Oh?
Wait!
Renju, stop!
Shook Renju. I don't know what's going on in her mind. I'm not understanding what's happening right now. Jump in hole number 1?
What is this hole? It wasn't here earlier. Really?
Yeah, go ahead.
Understood. Huh.
These people have freaky ass minds. I promise we didn't need that shot.
It's even more difficult to see now. Another voice? Monica! That's Hitomi's voice.
Where is she? Look for her.
Did they find her in this forest? Scream? Tree 3. Rock 2.
Another hole in a tree. About as big as a capybara, I estimate.
Those are pretty big.
Hitomi! Date likes Hitomi!
Hey, what are you trying to say? Hitomi won't remember this sink, but still.
Hitomi stopped. A hole in a tree. I won't get sucked in, right? Hmm? A cord bracelet has appeared on my wrist. Perhaps it belongs to someone.
Friendship bracelet?
It might be important. Hold on to it.
3 minutes, Date.
That's Hitomi. Do you remember this? Wait!
Follow her!
On it!
I'm so confused right now. I don't know if my silence is that apparent, but I am so confused. I'm just listening to what
A
this thing
large
tells me
hole.
to do.
Was this here before? If there is nothing left to do... Huh! Date, what is going on?
I don't know, it's pitch black. I can't see anything.
I see. Then it is not me malfunctioning.
Can you feel your way around?
I can try.
You have less than 2 minutes, Date. Hurry.
A licorice flower. Let's do it. What? Another hole. A large hole. We've come this far. I will not protest now. Huh? That is...
That's crazy. You hid that your I also say your daughter, but you hid that shit from Iris for 18 years that her mama is dead. You found her in a ditch and now she's in some fucking forklift and shit. Her body's been there for 18 years? Crazy work.
Hitomi, I think I know what happened 18 years ago. You three were close, You, Monica, and Renju. Monica was murdered. You and Renju found the body in the mountains, and you brought it back to the cold storage warehouse. And my guess is So Sejima killed Monica.
Wait. Yes. Corpse? How can I assist? What is your question? Is Iris even her daughter? No. You know what? She ain't act like, you know what? When we was talking about shouldn't you have like one vow to protect your daughter since like the day she was born? It makes sense why they took it a little longer for it to click for her if that wasn't her actual like baby she gave birth to.
I've seen inside his head before, using this machine.
I see. If you know that much, then there's no point in hiding it anymore. I'll tell you the truth.
I want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the damn truth. 18 years ago.
Wait, you're going to see So?
Yes. I want to talk to him in person.
No, you can't.
Why not? Are you worried about my body? You don't have to worry about that. I'm totally fine.
But your stomach is still...
Oh, my doctor told me that's normal. Your stomach doesn't go down right away after giving birth.
I'm not worried about your body. I don't know how to explain it. So doesn't care about you. And especially not your child.
I haven't told him about giving birth. He contacted me for the first time in a while.
So that's why.
He wants to know about the baby.
He must be panicking. If anyone ever finds out his mistress had his baby, his political career would be over.
It's not like it was an affair.
His wife passed away after giving birth to his son, right?
It would still be a big scandal. He impregnated a girl who just graduated high school. Don't you see how that looks? He knew how the public would take it. That's why he gave you the money to deal with it. There's no way he'll accept that child.
It's okay. I told him that I won't cause any trouble.
I pixelated cake. Welcome in. We're solving a murder mystery. We just learned some shocking news. Crazy. Monica Lewinsky is actually insane, Jesse.
But could you take care of the baby? Just for a little bit?
And taking care of the baby of just a little bit ended up being for 18 fucking years. Cause her ass died that same night.
I'll be right back.
No, the hell you will not. The more you know.
Fine. But take this with you, just in case.
Tracking device? Ah, that's fucked.
It's
okay.
a GPS transmitter. Just to be extra safe.
Monica sounds like Monica. I mean, I think it's the same name. There's a lot of names that don't really like, I don't want to say translate well, but certain like letter combinations do not exist in the Japanese language. Like for example, CA is not a thing. There's KA, but there's not a CA. I only know that because I looked up like how my name would be written in Japanese, and it's essentially the same, except there's a K in my name instead of a C.
I really don't think I'll need it. But okay, if it'll make you feel better.
I don't know what Monica saw in So.
Delirious girl.
She
Sorry.
said he was kind and loyal, that he wanted to change Japan,
Oh, girl, you got played and lied too.
but I didn't understand any of it. He tried to convince her to break up with him so many times. She never listened, and it ended in tragedy. What happened next, you already know. Neither Renju or I saw it happen, so I don't know how much of this is accurate, but we could guess what happened.
So they hid the body instead of reporting it? Oh, yes. Damn. Okay, she dead shit. This is like, stop it. She's already dead. Must have been the wife of Sho. No, his wife died when they gave it. His wife died giving birth to his son, and he was with, at the time, because this happened 18 years ago. Let me look up how old Sho Sojima is currently. This happened 18 years ago. So is 60. So he was 42 when he got a 18-year-old pregnant, and she had birth at 19. And he was still a politician, and he did not want it getting out that he got a recently graduated girl from high school. You know it started earlier than that. I'm just giving when the ages. The fucking 18-year-olds were all crazy. They were dating allegedly, and yeah. Nasty old fuck sure is. Why is there still 3 names we don't know? This is bothering me. What do you mean? What is this? Why are there names we don't know? Oh, it's 11:11, guys. Make a wish, make a wish.
Date, you said that Monica was killed by So, right? But that's not true. Monica was killed by Saito Sejima, the son of So and his late wife. Saito was 12 at the time.
12?
12 and murdering motherfuckers is crazy.
Yes.
But why would a little boy do that?
I don't know. I can't imagine. He told her to move overseas. He said he'd pay for everything. So contacted his friend, the chairman of the Kumakuras. He asked him to dispose of the body and left the scene with Saito.
The incident was 18 years ago. That means the chairman was Rohan, not Moma.
Rohan went to the scene of the crime?
Yes, with some of his men. Renju told me.
But you said he wasn't there.
He heard some of this from the Kumakuras. Renju had connections with them.
How did the Kumakuras know?
So told them. Again, neither Renju or I saw this. We were just waiting at my house for Monica to return. But she never came back. We tried to call her cell, but it didn't connect. But then, we saw movement on the GPS.
The GPS Renju gave to Monica?
Yes. At first, we thought she was on her way home, but we saw the GPS getting further and further away from the city. Renju and I got nervous, and we decided to follow it.
What about the baby?
We couldn't take the baby with us, so Renju gave the baby to the mob doctor he trusted.
Those are Kumakura men.
We didn't dare move. We couldn't speak. We were barely breathing. We could only watch as it all unfolded. I knew what the hole was for, but I couldn't move. Couldn't do anything. I remember my heart beating so fast. Before long.
We good here?
Yeah. Cover her.
Just a minute.
Beautiful.
The Kumakura people covered Monica's body, then left. Renju and I ran over and dug up the grave with a tree branch. What we saw. Monica! Monica! We need to call the police.
No, we can't. Not yet.
Why not?
You don't know who those guys are. They would do anything to keep this hidden. I've seen it happen myself. I know what they're capable of. Anyway, think about it. Why would they do this? They thought Monica and her baby were going to be trouble. Monica's stomach was still pretty big. I don't think they know that she gave birth already. What do you think they'd do if they found out? They would take her and kill her too. And then, they'd come for us. They'd make it look like we disappeared. All of us would be... gone.
Renju convinced me. He knew more about the dirty underbelly of society than anyone. He knew when something couldn't be handled by the police. He said that they would do anything to kill the child, and I believed him. We had to protect Monika's baby. We had to, no matter what.
Okay, I understand.
I decided to trust him.
Did she have like an at-home birth or something? Was there just like no
Couldn't leave
records
Monika's body in the forest.
of the damn baby?
We cleaned her up and took her to the cold storage warehouse.
This warehouse is owned by Okiura Fishery. My father runs it, but it's not in use right now. They're moving operations to a better area. They're actually looking for buyers right now. But don't worry, I'll take over the warehouse.
Are you sure?
Yes. Don't worry. I'll keep everyone out. Everyone but you, of course. I'll give you a key. You can come visit any time you want to see Monika.
Monika, don't worry about the baby. I'll protect her, no matter what. And don't worry about them, either. The people who did this to you, I will never forgive them. I'm sorry, Monika. Sorry. I'm sorry. Monika.
The mob doctor took care of everything. I have the birth certificate, and I even picked up a mother and baby book.
He's sitting like a bad bitch. Well.
It wasn't cheap, but you don't have to worry about it. Just submit the birth certificate and everything will be taken care of.
Okay, so that answers my questions about like the birth certificate. Because it's like if she didn't give birth in the hospital, how does Iris do anything?
You look worried.
I feel like I'm somehow betraying Monika. She was the one who gave birth.
Soon, you won't even be able to think about that, because a war is about to begin.
A war?
Between you and the baby. You won't get a good night's sleep for a long time. You might even start to resent Monika for all this.
Really?
Anyway, as soon as you submit the certificate, you will officially be her mother. Be sure to raise her responsibly. I'll help. Occasionally.
Occasionally is crazy. It's just like, alright, cool. So our best friend died. You're gonna take the baby and I'll come in like, you know, every couple of days or some shit. Maybe like every month or two. You know? It's your baby now. Leave me alone.
Occasionally, huh?
Like a true father. It's just like, oh, this is your problem, actually.
I don't really want to discuss this,
but we know from Mizuki, he's a terrible father anyway, so yeah.
There's something you need to know. After talking to the Kumakura gang, I found out who killed Monika. So's son, Saito Sejima.
How? Saito was only
12 years old.
Why? Why would a little boy do that?
I don't know the motive, but I know it's true. So used his connections with the Kumakuras to cover up for his son. And all of the evidence of this scandal, of course.
I'll never forgive them. So, his son, or the Kumakuras.
I feel the same way. But you can't think about revenge now. You and the baby can't lead a life like that. Just bear with it for now. The opportunity will come, so wait until the right moment. Okay?
I was thinking about her name. How about Iris?
Iris?
The goddess of rainbows in Greek mythology? And the colored part of your eye.
And the flower, too.
Right.
I thought it might have something to do with your name, Hitomi.
Not only that, it's also for Monika's name. The kanji for Monica uses the character for love, and Monica reminds me of Monoko, Japanese for eye.
So both names have something to do with the eye.
And I, which means love, will always be a part of Iris.
So that's how you came up with the name?
Don't you think it's nice?
Iris. Iris.
Damn, people put this much thought into their baby names. I mean, I'm sure they gonna have them names for, like, you know, the rest of their lives. But some people really be playing in their face. A la the Cannon and Zillionaire and his other 50 million kids that named after some bullshit. Why would you name your baby Powerful Queen? I want to punch you in your throat. Anyways, continuing.
Yeah, I really like it.
And so my life with Iris began. Raising a child was much harder than I expected. Waking up in the middle of the night to change diapers or feed her, Iris wasn't a good sleeper. And I always needed to put her to bed so carefully.
Sorry, I really just wanted to skip that last one just so that I ain't hear the baby noises. I can't deal with babies crying. I'm so sorry. Here they go.
It would only take 10 seconds before she'd start crying again, so I had to pick her up, sing her another lullaby, then put her back to bed. After doing this over and over, before I knew it, the morning sun would creep in through the windows. But even with all that, I cherished every single day. My hatred for those responsible never went away. But my hands were full. I devoted myself to her. I never thought about anything else. Eventually, my desire for revenge just faded away.
Mama! Mama! Woof! Woof! Mama! I'm wet! I'm wet! Sweepy! Up? Mommy, I won race today! Is Mommy proud of me? Mommy, I want to see Milky Moon again! Mommy, you are so good at dancing! Mommy, pancakes are done! Sorry, I burned it a little. Mommy, why can't I dance at the stores? I can't help it! My body dances on its own! Mommy, don't more people come to barbecues? How come it's always you and me? Hey, Mommy. How long will it take my bone to get better? I want to dance again with everybody. Hey, Mommy! Do you like my shirt? Look, we're matching! Mommy, thank you for everything!
No, this is supposed to be like a sweet moment. But all I can think of in this moment is I could not be a damn parent. There's only so many mommies I could take. I'm not having kids.
I love you more than anything in the whole wide world!
I like quiet too much. If I hear mommy one more time.
Mommy,
look! I'm so sorry. Everybody go to bed, no dinner. Ugh.
I drew it!
The Okonomiyaki War, huh?
That was so fun! We should do it again!
The food or the food fight?
Both!
I'm gonna have to say no to the latter, sweetie.
No, but like being a parent, I'm not cut out for that. Because one, you ask me too many questions, I'm just gonna leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I don't. I want peace and quiet. I want to sit in dark rooms with nothing but music playing. And then if I don't eat for like 2 days, that's fine. The baby don't eat for 2 days. They gonna call CPS on my ass. I can't do it.
It took forever to clean.
But Uncle said he wants to do it again too. Hey, Mommy.
Yes?
Are you gonna marry him?
What are you talking about?
As long as it's Uncle, I'm all for it. I say go for it.
I would always question myself. Could I keep living a lie? I had promised Monica that I would avenge her, but I couldn't work up the courage. And maybe Renju was exaggerating, but there's no statute of limitations for murder in Japan. If we showed Monika's body to the police, So would be punished by the law, and the Tsujima's and Kumakura's crimes would be uncovered. But that would mean Iris's secret would be uncovered as well.
And she wouldn't be safe.
That's what I was really worried about. I didn't want Iris to know that So was her father. And even more than that, I didn't want her to know that I'm not her real mother. That's the real reason I've been silent for 18 years. I didn't want to lose Iris. But fate can be cruel. God used other means to take Iris from me. In January, Iris suddenly collapsed. It was caused by a malignant tumor in her brain. There's nothing we can do. She only has a year to live at most. That's what the doctor said. If you remember me telling you. But what I didn't tell you is that there was an experimental new treatment. It was...
Some of the cutting-edge nanomachines can even go inside your body and cure illnesses. They can even cure cancer. And they go beep, beep, beep. That's what Mom said.
Nanomachines. Nanomachines could remove the tumor, but the procedure would be so expensive. With my salary, it wasn't something I could afford. I thought hard about it, about how I could get my hands on that kind of money, but I couldn't think of a solution. Time passed. Before I knew it, it was November. Iris's symptoms worsened. Her time was running out. I was starting to panic. I couldn't sit here and waste time while Iris... In any case, I had to get the money before it was too late. So I thought of a plan. A plan to blackmail So Tsujima. Two days ago, on Saturday night, I called So and invited him to come to the warehouse. He agreed to come. After I hinted at what happened 18 years ago, I had prepared everything, hiding behind the forklift until So came. When he finally arrived,
Oh.
he walked over to the workbench.
Wow. Okay. Okay, I stood up for like 2 seconds to get my jacket, but earlier when we did this route, and by earlier I mean like a couple days ago at this point, probably like a week ago at this point, I don't know. When we did this route and excuse me, and we saw this. We saw this because we came in like right after Sosajima came out. We saw this. We passed out. Well, we didn't pass out, but uh, Iba didn't see this. So only Date saw this, and we thought Date was hallucinating. We kind of threw this like to the back of our mind, and it's just like, oh, this is just like a hallucination. Like this is not real. This indeed was real.
Where I had laid Monica's body. He lifted the cloth and looked down. He whimpered and stumbled back.
No, because imagine thinking, like, oh, my son killed this person 18 years ago. I will never have to deal with anything related to this person at all. Just to uncover and see their body still preserved all these years later.
Even he was fazed, seeing a body he thought he got rid of 18 years ago. Not to mention it was the body of a woman he was in a relationship with. A woman his own son killed. He reacted exactly as I expected he would. I had prepared a recording and sent it to his phone.
I know what happened 18 years ago. Everything. I know who did it, and I know she had a baby inside her. You can probably guess what I'm going to say next. Be prepared to pay for my silence. I will tell you the exact amount later. And don't tell anyone about this. Not Saito, not the Kumakuras. If you do anything even remotely suspect, I will go to the press with the truth. Understand?
I told him to keep quiet and cut ties with the Kumakuras, even if he found out who I was. Without the Kumakura gang, he had no power over me, and there's no way he'd risk his political career, not to go after me. I saw So put his phone back into his pocket and run out of the warehouse. I came out of my hiding place to put Monica's body back, but then something unexpected happened.
Why did we come here in the first place?
I saw you, Date. I hid behind the forklift before you saw me, and when you were done looking around...
It can't be. Iris.
I was losing consciousness. My head felt fuzzy. I couldn't gather my thoughts. I didn't know what to say. Instead, Aiba did the talking.
Iris is not Hitomi's daughter. But Iris's father is Sosajima. Her mother, Monica Iwai, was killed 18 years ago by So's son, Saito. However, Hitomi raised Iris since she was a baby. Hitomi showed unwavering love and compassion for her, just as much as her biological mother would have, if not more. Iris's tumor was discovered in January of this year. The only possible treatment was experimental nanotechnology. However, that treatment is restrictively expensive. Hitomi devised a plan to blackmail Sosajima for the money. The best way to establish the blackmail was to show him proof directly. That is why Hitomi created the scene with the corpse. She was the one who called So to the warehouse. On Sunday night, what Date saw was what Hitomi had prepared for So. That is the summary of what we have learned so far. but there are some things I have yet to understand. Date, pull yourself together. Ask her questions. Date, snap out of it.
I heard Iba call for me and came too.
I'm sorry. I have no idea. No, I did not. All of this was my idea.
I probably don't have to ask, but let me just be sure. After I left the warehouse, what did you do?
I put Monica's body back onto the hood of the forklift.
Whoa. Hello? Oh my goodness. Hi. Hi, January. Hi. Is it Cyanide Art online? Hold on. It's Shadow Skies. Hi. Welcome in. Hi, Seven Squish. Oh my goodness. Breathe. I'm sorry. Thank you for the follow. Followers are anonymous, but if you'd like to make yourself known, be my guest. They don't know nothing about Cascade. Listen, I was in the anime streets watching, like, you know, the sub versions of animes in like 14 parts in for one episode. I was in the anime streets. Hi, developer. Hi, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Woo! Thank you for the raid. Thank you for coming in. Um, I do appreciate the raid. I would say if you need a raid or run, you are feel free to leave. You can always lurk. Lurks are very much appreciated. Hi, a jokester. Uh, mm-hmm. We are currently playing AI the Somnium file, and we are on.
Makes sense.
Stop! I didn't mean to click that. I wanted to click the thingy thing. I'm definitely gonna watch you play this. And I was just like, as soon as I said that or like thought of it, I was just like, oh, you're gonna stay, cause you when you come in, you stay, and I appreciate it. We're currently on. Excuse me? Why the fuck is his face here? Hello? Spoilers, but we're almost done with this game. There are only 2 routes left. I can't speak anymore. What's that supposed to be? That's not a subliminal to you, Corpse. That is not a subliminal. I'm just saying. But hopping into the sequel anytime soon. I actually installed the sequel last night. I literally stayed up for like an additional 30 minutes to make sure that the sequel was downloaded in case I finished this in a timely manner tonight so I could just hop right into it. And by timely manner, I mean anything before 2 a.m. If I finish at 2 a.m., if I finish anytime after 2 a.m., I will not play it tonight. If I don't finish the game, again, thank you for the followers are anonymous, appreciate it. If I don't finish the game tonight, hopefully, I will stream tomorrow because I will be off Wednesday at around like 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, and hopefully get more into the game. Also, January, where were you playing? What were you guys doing over there? Did you have fun? I'm asking my questions completely out of order because I was just throwing off, but oh, thank you, Corpse. I have to change that now because I've been consistently uploading the VODs. This VOD probably won't come until like I don't know. There's one scheduled for tomorrow. I think it's the last one actually, or the 10th, whichever one. It's gonna be scheduled like sometime this week, however long this is gonna be, and hopefully by Friday all of the VODs should be uploaded. In case anybody wants to go back and watch whatever the mess and realizations that this game has brought me. I will go into the sequel completely blind. I don't know anything. Well, not completely blind. I've seen like maybe the first 5 minutes, but not enough to be like, yeah, I know the game. I know what happened. I know who the main characters are. And I don't know how we get there from here. So, for the most part, mostly blind. But yeah, I'm just going to continue. Fire Emblem. What is Fire Emblem for real?
That's why the police didn't see the body when they arrived on the scene.
Oh.
It makes perfect sense now that I have the facts.
You being like, your battery needing to charge in that exact moment was crazy because it made me feel like I was losing my shit as the player, and I know Dante felt like he was losing his shit.
Iris did not resurrect. You simply mistook Monica for Iris.
Anime chess with complicated math. I don't even know how to play regular chess. I do like math though. Math is cool. I was actually thinking about it earlier because I had to do math for something happened with a patient's medication, and we were trying to see like how they were taking the directions because they was given 270 tablets to take for 3 times a day for 90 days, but they only had enough for 60 days. We couldn't figure out what happened. Had to do that math. That's pretty simple math, but really do love math. Never had less than a B in any math class, and it was always a high B because I probably fucked up like 1 or 2 tests. But math is like second best subject right after science. Random lore. That's okay, neither does Jan. Is that supposed to be a shot? You lose me at 2-step equations. Also, random lore. I used to do long division on the board, like after school for fun. Like, it doesn't even have to be like random. I would pick like some random like 3-digit number and divide it into like a 17-digit number for fun. Something's wrong with me. Yes, for fun. Somebody gotta enjoy math. I'm pretty sure all my friends enjoy math. I do have a friend that is a mathematician. Like, she got a degree in that shit. She really likes math. She like that shit more than me, and I'm just like, when I get stuck, I go to her because I know she got it. I'm a serial math failure, but still enjoy a good round of calcing out my anime chess. Is that supposed to say calcing? What does that mean? Calculating. Thank you, because I'm just like, I've never heard that phrase. Also, hi Nas, you snuck in there, but welcome in.
The body did not disappear. Hitomi moved it. Those were the events at the warehouse Sunday night. Simple.
I tend not to use like abbreviated words. I don't know. Sometimes that shit be fucking me up.
There are still a few loose ends, but I believe I understand what occurred 18 years ago. However, none of this ties directly back to Shoko Nadami.
Right. Okay. I was thinking this too, because I'm just like, okay, cool. We get why everybody else died. But was this really just a fuck Shoko at this moment? Like, why did she die? I don't understand.
Her murder was just 4 days ago. Is it connected?
Well, it was definitely a fuck Shoko, but like she's connected somehow, but I'm not sure how at this point.
Or are these two separate cases?
If there is a connection, it would be with Renju and So. We can think about it later. More importantly...
I headed for the exit. Sorry if I keep yawning in y'all ear. I promise I'm not tired. I usually go to sleep at like 2 a.m. I just was on the phones for like 8 hours today. I was supposed to go to the to the corner store, not corner store. I was supposed to go to my little pharmacy next to me and go get some ibuprofen because I've been having terrible headaches.
Where are you going?
To look for Iris, of course.
But you have no idea where she is, right?
Do you know something?
Do you know where Iris is?
Yes.
Girl, what the fuck is your daughter?
At around 4 o'clock today, I received a phone call. I don't know who it was. They were using a voice modulator.
What did they say?
I have your daughter. Don't call the police or she dies.
Oh.
That's why I didn't tell you earlier.
Renju.
We don't know that for certain. It could be number 89.
Either way, Iris is in danger right now.
The voice asked for something else. He told me to go to a specified location with you.
With me?
Yes.
Are we going to the original sync machine? The prototype? I forgot where that is. I think it's somewhere in the Kawasaki district.
The culprit knows me? It must be Renju.
We only saw that shit one time. That must be why it was connected to this route, though.
What location?
I'm sorry, but this stops
Oh,
now.
not the gat.
Date, run.
Boss!
Please, do not worry. I merely put her to sleep.
What are you doing?
My orders. They told us to halt our investigation. The boss was already going against orders as it is, which is why...
Investigation? What investigation? Shoko or Iris?
Neither. The investigation of Monika's murder.
Monica? But her case is all but completely solved.
Yes, but only to us, right? If we say nothing, then her investigation is ongoing.
So Tsujima. So threatened us, didn't he?
I don't know. But you've been stripped of your authority on this investigation. As of 5 minutes ago. In fact, you are to be placed under house arrest. What will you do, Date? I suggest you comply.
Computer, don't be a little bitch.
Iva, can you turn the power off?
Easily.
Alright, get ready. 3, 2, 1.
Putting him in a locker is crazy.
Now tell me, where is the location?
I can't tell you.
Why not?
If I told you, you'd go alone, wouldn't you? But if I don't go with you...
Alright, take me there.
Abandoned factory.
I know this place.
It's the chemical plant that closed 8 years ago.
Ah, it was in the chemical plant. I knew that. How did I know that? The corners of my mind were aching.
Date, I'm sorry, but this is going to be bad.
What happened?
Someone has begun to access my stored memory. They are attempting to wipe all the data.
Oh!
Everything I have accumulated over the last 5 years.
Oh.
Including backups.
Oh.
Pewter. Is Pewter doing this?
Almost definitely. He does have admin rights. I summoned some ice, but that will only buy time. I have 4 hours at the most. After my ice is broken, Pewter will be able to access Wadjet, my core programming. He would be able to destroy my mind.
Why?
It must be related to the orders they are receiving from the top. The higher-ups clearly see you as a threat, Date.
Thank you for the redemption.
They are attempting to limit your power by removing me from the equation. I suppose their motivation hardly matters now. The most important thing now is finding Iris and bringing her to Abyss within 4 hours. Or else, I will cease to exist.
Date? What's wrong?
Nothing. Just...
All right. Now you know. So get moving. I'm counting on you, Date.
4 hours? It's fine. Should be plenty of time. Is it? I gripped my revolver and got moving.
I'll go in first.
Speaking of dingy, can't wait for the Chainsaw Man movies tickets to drop. When does that happen?
You wait here.
Okay.
Because, we could watch that in Discord like a day or two after the drop. Oh my god, we need to watch Gachi Akata. Not tonight, but yeah, probably Wednesday.
Is that...
Damn.
Renju?
Oh. Fuck this game. Y'all gonna have me rubber banding back and forth between these two damn files? Well. Oh right, boss shot So Sajima in the head. What was going on there? It cut off like right after that because this game is evil.
That is...
Sosajima.
Oh.
Why?
I understand now. I'm
Boss?
looking. That's So Sajima in Boss's body.
What's going on here?
Oh. Oh my goodness. He just killed Boss.
Why did Boss kill So?
No, it's the other way. We just learned that you can switch bodies and the eye was removed. And I know that's how the old prototype works. Oh my goodness.
Shoko was killed around 5 p.m. Friday. What was Boss doing at that time?
Unknown.
What about Saturday, 8 p.m.?
The time Renju was killed? Similarly unknown.
Iris and Ota were killed at different times. I was watching the stream on the call with Boss.
That's still crazy.
Only the first few minutes. The polar bear had not yet appeared on stream. It is possible that she made the call from somewhere off camera.
Where was Boss's phone at the time? Check her cell records.
She did not call from a mobile phone. She used a PC. Using a VPN service, she could have accessed her Abyss PC from the warehouse and made the call.
Boss is the new Cyclops killer? Shoko, Renju, Iris, Ota, So. Boss killed them all?
The evidence makes that a likely possibility. So also had his left eye removed. Identical to Shoko, Renju, and Iris.
I like how in all of this, Ota was just like, you should have just minded your business and you would have still been alive.
Date, I know where the boss is.
I'm trying to be Captain Save-A-Ho, now your ass dead too.
I have picked up her GPS.
Where?
She is now at the Sagan residence.
Oh?
Somewhere inside Hitomi's house.
Why the fuck they...
What?
Good lord, good lord, good lord. This game's stressing me out. Why are you there? I drew my gun from its holster and barged into the house.
Hitomi! Hitomi!
I have to click on something for like 3 seconds. Okay. I called for her, but there was no reply. I didn't see Boss either.
Iva, call Boss's phone.
On it. The boss's phone.
Oh shit.
Kaname Date, you were under arrest for murder.
This bitch called the SWAT team on us?
Drop your weapon. Comply!
Boss.
I could ask you the same thing. You killed Shoko Nadami, didn't you?
Huh?
That's ridiculous. What are you talking about?
Don't lie. I don't know. She was gone when I got here.
Why did you come here?
Why would I tell you? Are you kidding me?
You're the new Cyclops killer.
What? Why do you think that?
You put a gun to So's head and pulled the trigger. I saw it with my own eye.
Shut up! Shut up! Stop lying!
Huh?
This is going nowhere.
Are you going to fight?
I have no choice.
I recommend against it. You have zero chance of winning a firefight.
Well then, what can I do?
Let me think.
Ciao. What kind of buttons they finna have me mash or press?
Date, what is that on the kitchen table? Could it be your favorite thing?
What?
The magazine.
You want me to look at a magazine now?
Just look.
It can't be. This is the stuff of legends. Only the most diehard fans have ever laid eyes on it.
Whoa! Limited edition!
I have no words. Because what is wrong with you?
Date, load Evolver with firebomb bullets. Shoot at the cloud.
Why?
Just do as I say, and fast.
Oh, you're making a fire. Flour is flammable. The more you know. What are we pressing? What are we pressing? What are we pressing? What are we pressing? Ah! You didn't know that? Yeah, I got the achievement.
She is probably just unconscious.
I don't know. Shoot her in the leg.
Her right shoulder and left leg suffered damage, but she will live.
I don't know. Shoot her like right there at the kneecap.
A dust explosion, huh? Good thinking.
Thank you.
But you could have just had me throw the bag of flour.
That would have been too slow. To improve your reaction time, I had to improvise.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's have a look. Hey, this is just a cooking magazine.
Boss is still unconscious. However, her brainwaves are stable. Syncing with her shouldn't be an issue.
Oh, we're going in bosses. We going in boss mode? Where the hell are you? Oh, you're up here.
She has broken her right shoulder, as well as the fibula of her left leg. But her brain is perfectly healthy. You can sync with her.
This Somnium sucks. Prepare for like 4 resets. I have a guide because after Soul Tsujima's Somnium on this route, the one where he's stabbing Monica like 15,000 times, after I had to sit there and watch that 2 times in a row, I looked up a guide because I'm not sitting here trying to figure this shit out again. No, thank you. I'm getting this shit right on the first try.
Because I know that the boss is my enemy. I got the video from Aiba. I processed it and found that it showed no sign of tampering or editing, which means there can be no mistake. After pulling out his left eye, that makes the odds of her being the culprit behind the other murders very high. Or maybe she had accomplices. Either way, she's a criminal.
Bro, what the fuck is going on in her mind? Why is it like 50-11 things?
That's why I am cooperating with you, Special Agent Date. I want it as bad as you do. The truth. had him put back behind bars.
In Fuchu prison.
That's right. I couldn't keep him here.
Date, talking to her would be pointless. You do know that, don't you?
Well, then what the fuck do you want me to do? Oh, Hitomi somewhere.
Computer, are the preparations done?
Ready anytime.
Let's get started.
Date.
I know. 6-minute time limit. I'll be back before time's up.
Well then, let's begin.
Is everybody hydrated? It's 12:08 a.m. Eastern Standard. Hope you ate, hope you hydrated. If you got work tomorrow, please go to sleep. The VOD will be here after stream. What in the fuck is going on here? Not this little dance.
Time to loosen up.
Do you always have to come in like that?
It is of the utmost importance.
At a time like this?
Times like this are perfect. Anyway, it appears to be an abandoned factory of some kind.
What could Boss be hiding here?
Somnium scan. Activate!
Boss is hiding something. Reveal the truth of the new Cyclops serial killings. Oh, lordy. Good fucking lord. Alright, break the lock on door 1. Where's door 1 in relation to me? Far as hell, okay.
A rusted metal door.
Break the lock with that.
What the fuck are you supposed to do in this Somnium if the very first thing they give you is over a minute long? We only get 6 minutes. What?
Roger. I will.
Girl?
It worked.
All right, open it.
Stop it. They're already dead.
Several keys have fallen.
One of them must be the right one.
I do not have time to try all of them.
Hopefully there's some kind of sign.
Indeed.
Agent Date, you've got 5 minutes.
I thought that was door A. Fuck. Fuck, what the hell? What the fuck? Am I dumb? Where's the door? It says door A. And it says it's on this side. Oh. I'm not gonna retry it right now.
A door that looks like the anywhere door. Hmm? It appears to be locked.
That's probably like 20 seconds I wasted. That's gonna
Agent
bite me in the
Dante,
ass
you've
later.
got 4 minutes.
Open door A. Pick up key number 1.
It's a key. The ice pick is next to this key. It appears to be correct.
That's what I said.
The tag is labeled A.
I was right. Give me some credit.
That must mean you can use this key for something labeled A.
Come on.
And now that I actually know where door A is, because it was confusing me. 'Cause I saw that, I thought it was gonna be like along the wall, and it wasn't
A
there.
door that looks like the anywhere. Perhaps we can use the key I just picked up.
Yeah, try that.
It opened. Odd. Isn't this the 3rd floor? What is going on here?
Looks like the floors are connected in a weird way.
Quite the troublesome dream.
What is going on with these people's brain? I know their therapy bills are high. But that also implies that they're actually getting therapy, so perhaps not.
A door with... It does not appear to be locked. This is the 2nd floor, but it is clearly not the door I just opened.
It's like a maze. I have to remember what door goes where.
I'm not remembering none of that. I got a guide.
Door C. It doesn't appear to be locked. Oh, we're on the 2nd floor again.
I think this would break my brain if I
Leave the second
tried.
floor and come right back to it? This is confusing.
If I tried to do this by myself. Because I don't think I would have chose any of these choices so far. Alright, I'm heading out. Good night. Good night, corpse. Sweet dreams. Tomorrow's Tuesday. You don't work tomorrow. Where's E? Nope, I'm not trying to sleep all day. Noted. Like I said earlier, the VOD will be here. The VOD will be here. Oh, door E is up.
Door E.
Now, get behind the sleep. Good night, corpse.
You have 3 minutes, Dante.
An oil drum hung with wire.
Guess you should check that door.
A rusted metal door. It does not appear to be locked. This again.
So we can't just grab one. We have to be careful.
It's a key with a watch beside it. The hands indicate 8 o'clock.
That's the time he died, so it makes sense.
Is this the correct answer?
Saturday night at 8 matches Renju's estimated time of death.
D is written on the tag. Let's go, Date.
You have less than
The
2 minutes.
D door.
Hurry!
Less than 2 minutes is crazy.
I will try the key.
Yeah, try.
It opened.
Is this the last Somnium? I would really, really hope so. But something's
door
telling
too.
me this is like the second to last, and there's gonna be like an even bigger one. Kick the pipe. No, that's not the pipe. The pipe here? Pipe's here.
A broken pipe. Steam is leaking out. Yeah! Oh, it's just as I calculated.
You were surprised, admit it.
A rusted metal door. I think I can open this door. This key has control panel written on the tag.
Control panel? The one right there?
Rows of monitor. This appears to be old. I believe this computer controls the factory's electronics. It appears to require a key to activate. Rows of monitors. There! Oh!
So?
I see. If
Okay, let's move it.
rows of monitors.
Hmm?
It shrunk.
Rows of monitors.
Oh.
I see. rows of monitors and buttons.
It extended.
Now we can use the route to door B. Door D prime.
Less than 1 minute! Hurry!
So follow the path. I'm following. Okay.
What?
Open C prime?
Date! 30 seconds!
Computer, please shut up. You're stressing me out. I'm stressing myself out. What the hell? Oh, this is the door.
Doors.
Oh. How are you supposed to do this? You're supposed to do this by yourself? You're supposed to just get this and understand? I have a guide and I'm struggling. Door B?
Door B.
Happy to report the sequel leans on actual logic much more. Okay. Because the Somniums... The Somniums just be doing shit.
You're out of time!
Computer, shut up! Oh my god.
Date. There.
Damn it.
Man. I'm gonna scream. Okay. Restart this bitch. Because I don't know where I fucked up with the time. I think it was when I was looking for the very door like A the first time. Yeah, babes, we seen it. I don't care. Let's get to it. Yep. We seen this. All right. And now they have once again thrown me into hell because I am suck with directions.
A rusted metal.
Break the lock with...
It's a key.
Agent Date, you've got 5 minutes.
The ice.
Oh, I did that wrong, actually.
Agent Date.
I wasn't supposed to do that. It was supposed to open. Hee hee. Whatever. That was like 50 seconds. I fucked up. Haha. I'm supposed to open the door to get rid of the negative timing. Break lock, open door A. Because at least this stop.
A door.
I hate negative timies. I hate them so bad. I wish you could at least, like, you know, choose when to use the negative one. Because it's like, alright, cool. You stuck with this. Good luck. You gotta sit there and hope that you find one. Where's B
Agent
again?
Dante, you've got 4 minutes.
A door with... Doors...
I'm sorry if I'm quiet. I'm like looking at the guide to make sure I'm not messing this up any more than I have to.
Door... An... A rut...
They be showing the murders so uncomfortably long in these Somniums. I'm just like, okay, cool, we get it. He died. He was strangled to death. She got stabbed to death. We don't need to sit on the same scene for 10 entire seconds. I promise. Open door D. I can't tell if my time is better at this point. I legitimately cannot tell.
A rusted metal...
You have less than 2 minutes. Hurry.
Rows of monitor... Rows of monitor... Rows of... Rows of...
How do we get there to that side again? Oh goodness.
Door D prime.
Oh. I still have it? Question mark? Open C.
Less than 1 minute. Hurry.
Door... door...
Dante! 30
Door
seconds!
F. This is the first time we've seen it. The first floor. This is the first time we've been here.
That big door. If we can see what's in there, we'll figure something out.
A power cord. It is discharging sparks.
That's not what I meant to do. Tackle? Ladder. Okay.
An iron... Ready? Whoa! This Somnium is awfully dangerous.
Hey, that door. Maybe we can open that one now. Check it out.
A power cord.
No, I don't care about the power cord.
A rusted metal...
Do I fail if I don't have a timey for this?
I'm going to open it.
Was that it? Thank God. Okay. Shit.
That's...
Yeah, nah, I don't think I could have did that by myself.
Iba, return to the control room on the 3rd floor.
At once.
What? Is that Iris? What kind of what goes around comes around as murder is this?
What the hell is going on?
They just... Are they hopping into people's bodies?
Date, what are you doing? 6 minutes are up.
Wait! Hitomi is...
Date, you can't go any longer! Force shutdown!
No!
Thank God I don't have to do that again. Oh my God, my toes were clenched. I was just like, I don't... If I failed it that time, I'm not gonna lie. I think I would have been like, you know what? I'm going to bed.
I took a look around your head, and I discovered something. Something about the new Cyclops serial killings. Apart from Ota, there are 4 victims. Shoko Nadami, Renju Okiura, Iris Sagan, and So Tsujima. Who was responsible for these murders? Shoko was stabbed by Renju with an ice pick. Renju was strangled to death by Iris. So cut open Iris's body, but who shot So? It was you. In other words, all of these murders were committed by different people. There wasn't just one killer. That's how it looks on the surface, anyway. But that's not the truth, is it? There's only one culprit. One person. And that person is... Yes, you. The person in front of me right now.
You're blaming the commander of Abyss for this?
No, not Boss. The person inside Boss's head.
Oh?
Can you at least try to make sense?
All right, I'll explain. You know about the abandoned chemical plant in Kawasaki? There's a prototype sync machine there. You use that device to swap around bodies one by one.
In other words, the entire egg ends up being replaced. Mind, consciousness, memory, they are traded. Switched.
I don't know where it started, but at some point, you got into Shoko's brain. Then, you got into Renju's. And got rid of Shoko's body. After Renju was Iris. You strangled Renju using Iris. After that, into So. Who you used to kill Iris and Ota at the cold storage warehouse. Now, you're in Boss's body, inside her head.
I see. If you know that much, then I have nothing left to hide. Yes, I am the culprit behind the new Cyclops serial killings. I guess you can call me the new Cyclops killer. Saito Tsujima. Congressman Tsujima's son.
What?
I researched Saito thoroughly, but I cannot find any images of him on the internet. He is listed on the family register, but I cannot find any photographs.
That was me.
You imitate her well. From the way you talked and your body language, it was like the real Iris. Earlier, too, you almost had me fooled. Your imitation of Boss was perfect.
Oh. Saito was already in Iris's body when we synced with them. That's why her fucking brain was so fucked up, and we were just like, well, this isn't Shovel Forge. What the hell is this?
Yes, there's a reason for that. Let me define some terms first. A person's memory and sense of self. Let's call that personality. It isn't quite the right word, but it'll suffice. Now, transferring that personality into someone else's brain, let's call that parasitism. The one transferring is the parasite, the one being transferred into is the host. Are you with me so far? Moving on. Even after the personality exchange is complete, the host's memory isn't completely lost. About 1% remains in the brain. So, a parasite could use that 1% to imitate the language and behavior of the host. That's how I knew about the warehouse and Sunfish Pocket, by the way. Thanks to Renju and Iris's remaining memories. I'm telling you, it was me.
You look crazy right here.
Why are you making me repeat myself?
That means the Somnium I entered on Sunday.
That's right. It was me.
How does he know about the original Cyclops Killer? And something else was troubling me. The face.
What's going on here?
Before I do, there's something I want to hear from you. How did you know about the prototype sync machine? And not only that, you also seem to know what the sync machine is truly capable of. Why is that?
That's...
Regaining your memories, are you? Human memory is fractal. If you retain even a single piece of it, it's possible to recreate the whole thing. Pieces of memories are like roots that grow into every corner of the brain, gradually, slowly, taking its time. I imagine the same thing is happening in your brain right now.
A fractal is a figure with self-similarity. Allow me to explain. See this? Whichever fragment you cut, you will see a similar shape. The whole is made up of its similar parts. This is called a fractal figure. Memories in the brain are similar. That is what he is explaining. He is claiming that from a few pieces, you can rebuild the memory.
I knew about the prototype from regaining my memory. Is that right? No, that's not it.
Parallel worlds exist.
Fine. I still have time.
Time?
You'll see. So, where do you want me to start?
It's just past midnight on Tuesday. Shoko was killed on Friday. We think of that as day 1. Today is day 5. What was Saito doing those days? Decided to ask him.
Like you guessed, my personality was in Shoko, Renju's ex-wife. That made calling Renju easy. I need to talk to you about something. He came over without question. I think it was around 4 p.m. I had him meet me at the chemical plant. I made Renju go to sleep, synced, switched personalities, and then stabbed Shoko's discarded body with an ice pick. I took Shoko to Bloom Park by car, using the old abandoned subway line. Must have been around 8 p.m. by the time I was finished. I tied up Shoko to one of the merry-go-round horses. After that, I used Renju's phone to send a Nile message to Mizuki.
Mizuki, Daddy got caught up in something serious.
Then, I just waited for Mizuki to arrive. Until next Saturday evening, my personality was inside Renju. My next target was Iris. I knew she would be suspicious if I asked her to come to Kawasaki, so I asked her to come to Sunfish Pocket first. I called her a little before 5 p.m., and she arrived just after 6. I greeted her, then convinced her to come with me. That's when Ota saw us. Anyway, I put her in the car, then headed to the chemical plant. On the way, I made her take a sleeping pill. I knew she might run once she saw where we were going. It was around 7 p.m. when I got there, and I wasted no time switching bodies. After getting Iris's body, I used a rolled-up apron to strangle Renju to death. Then I put his body in an empty oil drum I'd prepared earlier. I put that in the trunk of the car, then headed to Sunfish Pocket. But then, something I didn't anticipate happened. Waiting for the signal in Akiba, someone knocked on the window of the car. It was Ota. He asked me something about being able to drive. He was surprised, to say the least. I didn't have time to waste on him. But I couldn't risk him finding the oil drum in the trunk. Plus, if word got around that Renji's car was spotted driving around Akiba, that would foil my plans. So, I came up with a lie. I told him that I didn't have a license, so he had to keep it a secret. That's what that thing referred to in Ota's Nile messages, by the way. And just like that, I managed to escape a bad situation and headed to Sunfish Pocket as planned. The rest went exactly as you already figured out.
Allegra Clark is nailing this performance. It's so camp. I am just sitting here taking in all the information. Because what the fuck?
Sunday morning, I had a recording or some such thing scheduled. Oh, I am, of course, referring to Iris. I didn't want to draw suspicion, so I decided to attend, as planned. I went to Lemniscate and performed my job. And when I left, I ran into you, Date. To be honest, I was a little surprised. Just the previous night, I was a parasite in the body of Renju. I didn't think Ota had seen me.
What is this they keep doing with their hand? Like, it's like a little weird, like, grabby motion.
So, of course, I didn't expect to see you there so soon. You were on to me, but there was nothing I could do about that. If I ran, it would only increase your suspicion.
Like that, right there.
So I decided to play my role. The interrogation began around 8:20 p.m., is that right? Then you synced into my mind. But you didn't get what you were looking for, did you? As a result, you had no choice but to release me. I didn't want to go home right away. I knew there might be police waiting for me. That would make it difficult to sneak out at night. And that would put my plan in jeopardy. So I asked you to take me to Marble. I tried to find an opportunity to run, but then another unexpected event occurred. I got a Nile message from Ota. I knew I could use him, so I told him I needed his help and to meet me at Marble. He did as I instructed him to do. After that, I got into the van with Ota, but because his presence was unnecessary, I asked him to stop at a convenience store to buy me something to drink. When he was gone, I took his car and drove to my parents' house where I used to live. Yes, the Sejima residence. Of course, I knew I couldn't just walk up and ring the doorbell. Hello, Father, it's been a long time. I was also in Iris's body at the time. But I thought I could use that to my advantage. So I pushed on the intercom, and sure enough, my dad invited me inside. I told him this. I want you to come with me. There's something I need to show you. He was quiet for a while, but eventually agreed, and got into the van with me. We arrived at the prototype sync machine around 11:50 p.m. By the time I was in the body of Sosajima, it was a new day. There isn't much to talk about on Monday. Before noon, I used my old man's body to call this one Boss. You might not know this, but she and my father go back about 6 years. The two shared a terrible secret. Hinting at that was enough to get the boss to come running to me immediately. I injected her with a sedative, then brought her body to the chemical plant. I synced with her, exchanged our bodies, and after blowing my father's brains out, I cut his body into pieces. I stuffed the meat into a vase I'd brought earlier, then drove back to my house. This was yesterday, early Monday morning, past midnight. In my new body, I drugged Iris, put her in the van, and drove to a new location. Okiura Fishery Cold Storage Warehouse. I arrived around 1, then prepared for the show for a couple hours. Of course, when I say show, I mean dismembering Iris. Because of the temperature in the warehouse, it took longer than I expected to prepare, but... well, you saw it in the video. Of course, I didn't anticipate Ota would show up. What does that make it? 3 times that brat has showed up unexpectedly? That annoyed me to no end, and I took that out on him. Dressing him up in the polar bear was an impromptu plan on my part. I didn't mean to make you think he was the killer. I just wanted to throw a wrench into the investigation. Didn't matter if you found out or not. This all happened Monday morning. I left the warehouse around 3:30 a.m.
Saito spoke with grace and no sign of remorse. I was trying to keep my anger from boiling over and kept asking him questions. This is really crazy.
To harass you.
To harass me? What the fuck did I do? What you say fuck me for?
I wanted to bring out the hatred in you. That's why I called Mizuki to Bloom Park. That's why I streamed Iris's murder. Because they were important to you, weren't they?
Not Iris, but okay.
I wanted you to feel cornered, trapped. I wanted to punish you, Kaname Date. Ah, the prototype sync machine has a special feature. It administers a strong dose of sedatives to the original body, and a stimulant to the host after a sync. That kept them docile. You know all about the prototype sync machine, don't you? That should explain it.
I know. The prototype sync machine differed from the one at Abyss in a few ways. The machine at Abyss is more sophisticated. Whew. I'm not gonna lie, it's really giving I'm not gonna finish this tonight. What time is it right now? It's about to be 1 a.m. I'm gonna finish the green route. I don't know how long the true route is. I don't know. Something nano cables. Depending on how sleepy you get, prepare to start sequel or just have a short stream. I'll do my best to finish this one and then play the other one on either Tuesday, started on Tuesday night, or just play it on Wednesday. I don't even know what this said. Nano cables from the sync gear enter through the gap between the eyeball and the socket, then they travel down the optic nerve canal to the brain. But the prototype sync machine isn't so advanced. To perform a sync, you need to remove the left eye. Okay. So my theory of like someone was controlling them by taking the left eye was actually correct. Crazy. Manually, the subject and the sinker have to remove their eye from their socket. Otherwise, the cables cannot enter the brain. Of course, even with the eye removed, severing the connection to the brain isn't necessary. The extracted eyeball still has the optic nerve and blood vessels connected. After a sync, the eye is supposed to be replaced back in the socket. It's supposed to be safe. Side effects are rare. Unless the nerve or blood vessels are damaged somehow, replacing the eyeball isn't too difficult.
Of course, I don't really care about eyes. I don't need them. All I cared about was exchanging bodies with the sink. And for that, I needed to remove the left eye.
Why didn't you just put the eyes back when you were done?
That's obvious. Once I was finished transferring into a new body, the old one was of no concern to me. Why would I bother replacing the eye? I was just going to get rid of it anyway. Shoko's is in Renju. Renju's is in Iris. Iris's is in Dad. Dad's is in Boss. Their stomachs, I mean.
You sick bastard.
Yes, I ate them. Immediately after exchanging personalities.
How horrible.
Homicide is my hobby. I have a tenacity for it, what can I say? Of course, it was also necessary to make sure people kept their mouths shut. If I took over someone's body, they would know about my crimes. I couldn't risk them reporting me, so I killed them. It was also a matter of revenge. Against you. It's personal. That's why I chose people close to you as targets. Well, except for my father, of course. That was personal to me, but don't ask. It's embarrassing. This series of murders was like a journey for me, you know, traveling through bodies to finally reach the end. That's the thing about traveling. You always wind up in the same place, don't you? Where do you think that is? Your home. A trip is only complete once you return home. The same goes for me. When I return home, my travels will come to an end. So I'll be needing it back. My body.
What?
You stole my body. You took it from me 6 years ago. That's why I want revenge.
What are you talking about?
You have no idea what it was like inside my own head. I miss it. I miss my brain, Date. No matter how many people I killed, it never worked. I never felt happy. I feel miserable.
You mean?
He was born with a brain dysfunction. Due to damage to the posterior pituitary gland, he was unable to properly secrete oxytocin.
Oh, that's right. My old body. How are you finding it, Date?
I hope he ain't fondled nothing in his body.
That's what I've been telling you!
But I don't have the same oxytocin deficiency you did.
That is because I regularly supplement it. They must have increased your dosage too much.
I did find that line strange when she said it. 'Cause I'm just like, he's on medication?
The person who had this disorder was number 89, the original Cyclops killer.
That is what I believed as well, but we must have misunderstood. Pewter did not specify who exactly was imprisoned, only that one of the original culprits responsible was currently in prison.
That's strange. That would mean number 89 is the previous chairman, Rohan.
That must be it. Rohan is a parasite inside number 89's brain. Pewter must have known that.
As soon as this this green route is finished, I will go to sleep. I am struggling to stay awake right now. And I'm given too much information for my brain to keep up right now.
No way.
I was confused. I didn't understand any of it. Babes, neither did I.
Let us determine the specifics using Saito as our starting point. Whose brain was he in before Boss?
So Sejima.
And before So?
Iris. And before that, Renju. And before that, Shoko.
And before Shoko?
I was a parasite inside Rohan's brain 6 years ago until last year. I'd lost most of my memories. I was a shell of a man. They housed me in a special hospital. But I still had those fragments of my mind left, just as I explained earlier. From a single piece, you can recreate the whole. I took my time, slowly regaining my memories. 1 year ago, I remembered everything. I left the hospital and immediately sought out Shoko Nadami. I got her body, and she was in Rohan's. When she saw herself in the mirror, she lost her mind. She was confused, panicking, running up the emergency staircase, and then...
Shoko's been dead for over a year already?
That's why Rohan committed suicide.
After that, I spent a year perfecting my plan, using Shoko's body. I spied on you all this time. That's why I know everything about you.
Wow.
In there, in that body you are operating right now, in that skull, My personality.
Wait, hold on.
She said live, well, he said live there. I skipped it on accident, sorry.
If what you're saying is true, what about my personality?
It was in Rohan.
I'm not Rohan!
Correct. It is just as he explained earlier. Number 89 was in Rohan's body. In other words...
You're number 89. That's your body! Woo, my theory was correct.
Am I real?
Ah, so you're uncle. And you were with Potomi.
Sorry, but time's up.
What time?
I want my body back.
Oh.
It's quite simple. Sync with me and stay inside my mind for more than 6 minutes.
And if I refuse?
I know that you won't. I know it.
Huh?
Date, look! This is streaming live!
Bitch?
Damn you!
If you give me back my body, I will give you the location. Oh, and of course, it isn't the chemical plant in the Kabasaki district.
Aiba, where's the source?
It is being routed through numerous IPs. I cannot identify the source.
Pewter, contact headquarters, now!
Got it!
Now, what will you do? Will you agree to my request?
Date!
See? I knew you wouldn't refuse. I know you well, don't I, Date?
I did it. I did it. I'm back. I got it all back!
Hey, where's Hitomi?
All right. I'll tell you as promised. Boss's house. However, it might be too late by now.
What? Why?
Return my body and I'll tell you the location. That's what I said. I didn't lie. I kept my promise.
You bastard!
You're the one who injured that body. It's your own fault, really.
Damn it.
Be seeing you.
Aiba.
Date, are you all right?
This is peak Aiba form right here. Aiba's voice barely resonated. My eyesight was hazy, a heap of broken images. Sweat was building up on my palms. It felt like my throat was closing up and I was struggling for breath. In my ears, the rushing blood of my heartbeat was the only sound.
Everyone's dead.
Shoko, Renju, Iris, Ota, Hitomi, Boss. The flesh remains, the mind is lost.
I couldn't do anything. Saito had me right where he wanted me. Nothing. Nothing.
Parallel worlds exist.
The words suddenly echoed in my head. I couldn't remember who, or where, or why. But I thought that if there really was such a world, then me in that world, I is another.
Could I have had a better future?
I prayed that I could. I felt my consciousness sink into a black abyss. Nighty night, friends. Nighty night, Pixel. Well, shit. Okay. That was that fucking end. Wow. I haven't overwritten like this save because like you see this is when I bought the game and I was just like, oh yeah, let me play, and I played it for like 40 minutes and I didn't even think I made it past like the first day. No, well, I think I made it to like the very beginning of the second day. And then it took me a year to play and now look at me, a fiend and needing to finish this game. Fun fact, if you rewatch this route, you can hear the difference in Iris's voice when it's Saito. It's cool to see on the rewatch. Interesting. Wow. Uchikoshi. Something is wrong with this man. Something is seriously wrong with him. I don't think he's okay. Neither do I. I also do not think that he is okay in any way, shape, or form. Do you plan on finishing the game? I don't know how long I have left. Something like an hour to go. It's longer. It's way more than an hour. Okay, then I can't continue going. If it's way more than an hour, 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. is my hard out cutoff time, and that's 45 minutes away. So if it's longer than an hour, cannot do that. It's about 3 hours ish. Oh, okay. So that's gonna be tomorrow. That's gonna be tomorrow. Because tonight we're not doing that. Oh, I do apologize. I don't have the mental capacity for any more. Okay. It probably did like some weird transition. Anyways, I'm gonna try to go to sleep. Well, I'm not gonna go to sleep immediately because I end up staying awake and just staring at the wall a lot of the time. And I really need to do better with that. But I don't know if anybody's if y'all been watching people play Silk Song, but my friend Shu is currently streaming it. And I would like to send him a rate just because I don't really be rating because I kind of suck and I just end. But also I stream very late. Especially now that I have a job. At when I had a job, actually, when I was unemployed, I was just streaming whenever the hell. But now that I have a job and I work from 12 to 9, I could only really do after like 10 p.m. Is this gonna work? It does. Okay. I've been forgetting how to use the raid thingy, but my friend Shu is playing Silk Song. I do have a raid message. If it were Oh, okay. Oh wait. Yeah, I kind of got rid of that one. The sub rate is even broken. It's okay. But we're gonna send love over to Shu while they're playing Silk Song. And I want to thank everybody for coming and watching me play this game. I also want to thank January for sending a lovely raid over here. I do appreciate it. Um, I don't really have any more to say at this point, except I hope everybody gets a really good night's rest. Thank you all for the follows. Make sure you're hydrated, make sure you eat. And if you're not doing that, go do it right now before you go to sleep. But alrighty, see you guys.